go ahead and get the Finance Committee meeting started. Today's September 20th, 2023. And we have 4 proposals on the agenda tonight, all related to the 2024 budget. And the controller's here. I see Ms. Korn's here. And the deputy controller's here tonight to give us some information about all 4 kind of as a package. And with that, Tyler, I'll just hand it over to you. And if you'd like to share with us the information you have about the 4 proposals, 3, of course, regarding compensation and salaries, and 1 for the actual budget for the city.
Yeah, I can cover the salary ordinance pretty briefly. The 2024 proposal does have 3% raises into the salary ordinances, and then it's in the proposal as well. So other than that, nothing major on those.
The straight 3% across the board, and then all the other pieces in the public safety fall within the contract, the union contract?
Yeah, we did a pretty thorough review to make sure that everything and the CBAs are locked in on those. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any questions regarding salaries?
Did you say it was a 3% raise?
Yes. Yep.
Is that across the board?
Yep.
Thank you. Is that in alignment with what we have done in the past?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So to help folks read that, when we're doing the civilian side and it lists the hourly, you increase the 3% on the high end. Is that correct?
Yeah, all the max ranges were 3. I believe I did the low end too. So even if you're on the low end, you'll shift up as well.
So the low end, the high end shifted up by 3%. Perfect.
Correct.
And I don't see any questions from Councilor Russell. So yeah, ready to move forward.
All righty. So I'll cover briefly that packet that was handed out the last meeting. So that's calling that just a council packet. It's a new kind of item, but I think it's pretty useful. It covers the budget form 4 ordinance from Gateway or from the DLGF, and then it has all the accomplishments and goals of all the departments. I think that's probably a useful tool to have with you because it's pretty easy to take it with you. So if you're ever talking to a resident or constituent, you can pull up and know exactly what the plan is for next year. So if you have any street questions, you can go right to the street department page and you can talk about the objectives for 24. So I hope you find that useful. We'll reference that here intermittently, but hopefully you find that as a useful tool, and appreciate any feedback on that one as well. The presentation itself, I print out packets so you've got a copy of them so you don't have to turn around and look at the PowerPoint. So with that, I'll kind of jump into it and we get started. It's going to probably take 20 to 30 minutes, so just bear with me. It's a little dense. All right, so I'm going to just kind of run through the agenda for this presentation. We're going to do a kind of a real brief citywide overview, and then we'll cover our major funds from our general fund, our street department, stormwater, and then we're going to hit our public safety tax fund and EMS. So we'll do public safety kind of together. We'll cover our parks non-reverting, then our capital improvement fund, and then we'll kind of round out with departmental discussion. So I'll pause after I get to the capital improvement fund for the fund level kind of Q&A, and then we can jump into department discussions. So with that, let's kind of jump into citywide. So if you're looking at the second, if you flip the cover page of that packet, you've got the budget form 4. There's 2 sections there, kind of our major funds, so the DLGF reviews, and the bottom half is the non-DLGF reviewed funds. In total, this 24 budget proposal is $55 million. 50% of that is our general fund. You can see on the chart, if you're on the presentation packet, we're onto the total budget proposal chart. So 50% of that proposal is our general fund, and the next largest percentage are other operating funds. So we can break that down a little bit larger, or well, actually more granular, I should say. And you can see all the funds that make up the other operating funds and how much they're taking up of that total. So our largest ones being, in this case, ARP for this year, but public safety tax, MVH, EMS, and stormwater. And so when we get through each fund, we're going to cover them each individually so you can see where they're ending as a kind of an individual unit there. But continuing on from a citywide overview, one of the areas we always look to review is our historical assessed values. So where are we going from a kind of a tax-based perspective for our assessed values? And so we've seen quite a bit of growth from 2019 all the way to 2024. In 2019, we had $1.4 billion in the net assessed value. In 24, we have a certified net assessed value of $2.1 billion. We saw that's about a 4.7% growth from 23 to 24. And you can see the huge growth from 22 to 23, about 18% there. We've kind of discussed that last year, but that's always helpful seeing our AVs continue to climb. So we hope to see that continue on to the future. This I don't think is anything new for those who were at our town halls, so we'll have a couple charts that you've probably already seen before. Covering our general fund revenue sources, so most of you know our general fund's revenue sources primarily come from property taxes, so that's 43% of the general fund's revenue. The next largest piece is going to be our income taxes at almost 18%, and then the next largest there is 16% at other charges for services. And so our general fund revenue projections for 2024 are $27.4 million. And so that kind of gives you a little bit high level of what's coming in. So we're kind of going to look at how that breaks down from the general fund's perspective when we look at this uses of funds. And so again, this is not a new chart. You've probably seen this quite a few times, but looking at the largest percentage here is our public safety. So this is police, fire, and communications in the general fund. That'll make up 78% of our proposal. Again, that's police, fire, and communications. The next largest is 8% for trash collection, which is on par with previous years. Almost 6% for the Parks Department, and just shy of 4% for DPW, which is code enforcement and permitting. And the last, call it 4% here, is our elected official departments. So in total, the general fund's proposal is $27.4 million. And so we are pleased to present a general fund that's balanced this year, and again, maintains our 20% operating reserves. And so another chart that you've all become really familiar with is this one here. You'll see a red dotted line that indicates our 20% operating reserve target. And so we will be above that target again for the 6th consecutive year. And we are looking to maintain a cash balance of $6.1 million. So we are projecting 2023 to end at 6.1 and 2024 as well. So this is good to see. A slight increase from 2022. Revenues have kind of bounced up, and so that's helped us maintain our reserve target. And so this is another important piece. The mayor's harped on it, the previous controller has, and I will too. This is important for us to maintain these reserves. It saves us on interest, especially in a rising interest rate environment like we're seeing now. So this is key to our financial success into the future, and so we're pleased to be maintaining those once again. Now this chart is going to be one that you're going to see for most of the funds moving forward. This is our general fund again. So the green is your revenues, red is expenditures, and you've got a dotted line for your cash balance. And so you can see, just looking at 2023, in the projection there, our revenues are slightly above expected or projected expenditures for 2023. In 2024, you can see there the balance proposal that we do have. And so again, maintaining $6.1 million in 23 and 24 for our ending cash balance. So I'm pleased to see that. And again, as we get moving forward into the public safety funds and we talk about the capital improvement fund, you're going to hear about, again, kind of repeatedly from previous years, how those are all really tightly related and they kind of have a tight-knit connection. So we'll get into those. But before we move into those, I'm going to talk about our street department funding. So this will be, again, another chart that we covered in the town halls. So sorry if this is old news, but I have added the 2024 numbers. And so a key area here is just revenues. So the street department is primarily funded by the gas tax. So there's money going into your LRS fund, your local road and street fund, and your motor vehicle highway fund. And so in total, we can combine those gas tax receipts and give a year-over-year comparison. So if we look back at 18, we brought in 3.1 million. But if you kind of trend it out and look at what happened due to the pandemic, those revenues kind of took quite a bit of a drop, hitting 2.5 million in 2020. And then we've seen them rebound up to 2.9 million in 2022. And so right now for 2023, we are projecting that we will be bringing in 3.1 million. So this is kind of a key point here. From 2018, we brought in 3.1 million in gas tax, and we're doing 3.1 million in 2023. So the street department has really had to has had to deal with higher demands. So they're working with less. So it makes it kind of difficult for them. But we are projecting that trend to continue into 2024. And we are looking at bringing hopefully 3.3 million in gas tax between the two funds. So that's a positive trend. We'll have to just keep monitoring that. Hopefully we don't see any driving drop off like we saw in 2020 moving forward. So that's a good thing. And you're going to kind of see what that did to the cash balances of those two funds. So we'll move into the motor vehicle highway fund. In 2018, Down to 2020, you can see our cash balance went from 3 million down to 2.4 million. You can see in 2019 and 2020, the revenue did not keep up with our expenditures. However, you can kind of see a rebound here from 2021 to 2023, where we got those revenue or the cash balance back up to 3.3 million here in 2023. We do have a proposal for 2024 to use about 268,000 in reserves out of that motor vehicle highway fund. Not too big of a concern, and you're going to see why when we get to the next local road and street fund. But overall, those are significant cash reserves in this fund, and we've done a good job maintaining those for the last few years, and that's helped us get through some downturns here. So, positive thing in this fund, looking forward to covering that department, talking about some of the great things that they're doing. And again, the reason I'm not concerned about using some reserves here in the motor vehicle highway fund is because on the LRS fund, if you look at what happened from 18 to 20, a similar story. We used some of those cash reserves because our expenditures outpaced our revenues. But since then, our revenues have rebounded and outpaced our expenditures significantly, and we have over 100% operating reserves in our local road and streets fund. And so again, I'm comfortable with using some of the reserves out of the MVH fund because we're so well funded between the two of them. So not an area of concern for me. Moving into our stormwater fund, this is one that we have got very good reserves in it. So in 2021, we received our first distribution when we removed ourselves from the Marion County Stormwater District. In 21, we also received, I believe, the second half of 2020's revenues, just given the timing. So you can see why the revenues were up in 2021. Then they got back to normal levels for 22 and 23. And so we have really solid cash reserves here in our stormwater fund. And Sri will talk more on the projects in that fund when we get to that section. But overall, very well funded and a good, strong position for stormwater. Now we get to move into the public safety funds, which are the ones that don't have as great of a picture to paint here for you all tonight. So our public safety tax fund, you can see the cash reserves of this fund from 2018 to 2022 had kind of started to erode. And so we've covered again how that revenue is relatively flat. And again, it's outside of our control. And our expenditures just flat out continue to rise. And so that presents a challenge. We did shift a lot of expenditures out of this fund for the 23 proposal, and that has worked to help. It looks like for 23, we'll build the cash reserves back up a little bit, but in 24, we're preparing basically the same budget we have for 23, which will use some cash reserves. That's one where we continue to look for opportunities to shift it into the general fund and into the capital improvement fund. When we get to the capital improvement fund, you'll see what that looks like in general, but we'll have to continue to, again, move expenditures around as we continue to look for opportunities to help that fund out. On the EMS side, you can kind of see the same picture, but I would put an asterisk on this one because the state and the fire chief, we can speak to this one a little bit better, not the state, I think it was the Fed, on Medicaid reimbursements has increased their Medicaid reimbursement for our EMS runs significantly, and so we are expecting a pretty significant increase in revenue. I was a little bit on the conservative side, so we are showing that we will need to use reserves again in 24. But if you look at 2021 and 2022, those are the years we shifted debt service out of this fund, and so that was a planned discussion we'd had throughout the budget process, shift the debt service to the capital improvement fund, shift it to the general fund. Need to build those reserves up for a few years. We shifted the debt service in 23 back in, and you can see that we used some of those reserves for 23. We do have that debt service still in there for 24. We weren't able to fit it into the capital improvement fund, and you'll see why when we get to that fund. So again, for me, I'm actually optimistic that revenues will actually balance this out, but I wanted to paint kind of a worst case scenario picture just in case. And so we are continuing to monitor those new revenues, and so hopefully we'll have a better picture by probably mid-November on what that change will do for us. Kind of round this out here before we get to the capital improvement fund is our parks non-reverting. So you can kind of see that our expenditures in 2020 were down, but so was our revenue. And so we kind of pivoted there, but we've maintained good cash reserves in this fund. 2023, I am projecting a slight set a slight positive net income on this fund. For 2024, although it's a slight increase, there's a couple things I keep in mind. Number one, the scaling on this is a little off, so that looks like a large gap, but it's about $25,000. Number two is we set a pretty ambitious goal for revenues, and we want to continue to increase park revenues in this fund. So that's more of a goal for us than anything else. So this fund in good condition. So no concerns for me on this one. And then our parks director will speak on some of the specific uses when we get there. We're going to round out this fund level overview with the capital improvement fund. So this is where you can see from 2018 to 2021, we kind of built up cash reserves. 22 is when we shifted a lot of that debt service over. And so you can see in 22, we used a significant amount. We did keep debt service in there in 2023, but right now we are projected a slight increase in our cash balance at the end of 2023, and 24 is a balanced proposal. The reserves here are good. To me, I mean, that's 100% operating reserves in this fund. We'll have to continue to kind of look again at shifting between general fund, EMS, public safety tax, and the capital improvement fund. We'll have to continue to shift those expenditures around while we maintain those cash balances. And so this is an important piece to that kind of how shuffling game we have to play with those expenditures until we see some changes with at least the public safety tax fund. So overall, I mean, I know the public safety tax fund, the EMS fund aren't fun for us to talk about, but the total picture we have here is pretty positive. The city's ending in good cash balance position in 2023, and 24 will be the same. And again, maintaining our 20% operating reserves in the general fund is a key piece to making sure that we have funds on hand to mitigate any of these financial challenges we have in these, at least the three major funds on the public safety side. So that right there really rounds out, I know, pretty quick, but all the major funds from a high level. So
It's all right. Do we have any questions then on the high level before we get into the department section? I don't see Lauren.
there is a Teams chat.
One question I have, just sort of just comparing apples to apples from previous years. And this year we included, or it was included in the budget, the American Rescue Plan and the opioid settlement. Was there any particular reason that it was included this year and not previous, or?
I mean, we have to appropriate them, so more so just procedural. We need to get those funds appropriated so they're available in the future, yeah. And so actually a good point here, when we rounded out the audit from the State Board of Accounts, I did ask about ARP funds, and so they basically said it's treated like a bond ordinance. You appropriate it once, and so all this is just to appropriate the remaining funds. So once it's appropriated, it's available to be spent according to the ARP plan.
According to the ARP plan, okay. So in 24, the council would still have to do an ARP plan.
Yeah,
as
or
part of that
just
spending.
spend according to the existing, yeah.
Okay. And then on the budget reserve slide, we just did additional appropriation at the last meeting. Does that additional appropriation impact your reserve numbers here?
It's included in the projections, yep. Absolutely. Perfect. Good question.
And then this one is always in everyone's minds on the, with the gasoline tax receipts. And we see more and more electric vehicles and alternative fuels coming into our city. Does that impact this, and how will we fund street funding?
It's not considered in this. That's above my abilities, but it is something that I continue to kind of consider and monitor. At some point, the state or the federal government's going to have to step in and come up with a plan to ensure that we're receiving something for those EV vehicles. I don't know if they'll put it on the registration and we'll get part of a fee from the BMV when they register the vehicles. I'm not sure how they're going to come up with a way to do that, but they will need to make sure they're paying some way into our street fund. But yeah, that's going to be a challenge as we move forward.
Okay. So yeah, those deficits then
It's
are
probably a 5 to 10 year problem versus the next.
right.
Yeah, but it is something we need to keep. It needs to be on everyone's mind as we continue to move forward with EVs, for sure.
So those deficits may be something we take to our state legislators to discuss.
Oh, yeah.
That's a state issue. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Question.
Then on the next one, the local roads and streets fund, does that also come from the gas, or where did that one?
That's gas tax.
That's gas tax also. So the one where it's motor vehicle highway fund, local roads and streets fund,
They
both
both,
from the-
yeah, they both receive a piece of the gas tax. Yep.
Okay. I think that was all my questions. Counselor Russell, did you have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I told her she could text me if she did, and she responded, thank you, but I don't have a question from her yet. I'll keep an eye out. Looks like I see my 3 dots, so I don't know if somebody else.
Well, moving forward, I can end the presentation on here, and then you can go back to normal. I can
Okay.
unplug and plug you back in.
Tyler.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tyler.
She says she's good, no questions moving forward, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think,
All right, well, here, I'll just plug you in.
Thank you.
so do we have the departments next?
Let's see if this kicks on real quick. Can you disconnect? Yeah. So for those, I probably just be best to go in order of the packet. I can knock out the first one here.
Okay. Which packet are you referring to?
This is the one that you received that has all the accomplishments and goals in it.
This one?
Yes.
I'll make the one.
One from last
I use the same cover, so it probably doesn't.
September 5th. Okay.
Hold on one second. I think we may need to unmute up here now that you've unplugged? Okay.
Yep.
Lauren, can you hear us?
You might want to.
Okay, she said yes, so they can hear now. Thank you.
So the first department in there is the mayor's. These are just a numeric order from our.
Well, now we are getting feedback again. Okay.
okay.
You out? All right. So starting with the mayor's. So his priorities are in here for his 2024 objectives. Obviously, increasing marketing events of the city. Were you want to do the mayor's? Okay. Thank you. One of his areas is exploring sponsorship opportunities. Again, wanting to strengthen community relations. And again, our goal is to continue to apply for and receive next level trails grants. So that's a huge piece. And then I know most people are kind of aware of the trades district, and so that's another area he's looking at focusing on. While I'm up here, I'll do mine because I don't want to jump between me and DPW. So if you want to jump to the controller's office, I can go over mine. So one of our goals, and it always is number one, receive a timely audit, which we have not had before for at least 2 years. One thing to note, the SBOA was pretty clear because we received so much federal funding through ARP, which everyone did. Now we're subject to the federal audit portion. And so we will receive an audit for at least the next 2 years, guaranteed they have to come in. And so we'll be able to check that box off in terms of receiving a timely audit. Our goal is to get down to 1 finding or less. That's kind of tricky. Sometimes they like to find something usually. And then obviously we are going to continue to prepare and are anticipating receiving our 8th GFOA award for budget presentation. One of the things that you probably noticed was this year we didn't do the workshops, we did the town halls. So one of the things that I continue to do is look at what the GFOA is putting out in terms of communication and public engagement. So I'm going to continue to look for ways where we can engage together between the controller's office, the council, and the public, and get as much input as we can throughout the budget process. And that was actually one of the reasons for preparing the packet that you have today, is I think this might be a little more useful for all of you. We are looking at reviewing some opportunities for digital timesheet management. So right now, it's surprisingly, but we still use spreadsheets for our timesheets. So we are looking at digitizing that as well. And publishing a standalone 5-year capital improvement plan. So we do have that in our in the budget proposal, or the adopted budget. We compare and provide a full capital improvement plan, but we want to have a standalone kind of rolling capital plan. And so I'm working with a couple of different departments on a master plan, if you will, in that sense. That's kind of the goals of the controller's office. DPW's got a lot more going on there, page before me. And so I'd ask that you jump back to them, and Sri will talk about DPW from a permitting perspective and stormwater. So a lot of fun stuff.
One quick question, Tyler, before you step off. On the mayor's office, just going back to that one, continuing developing the trades district. The trades district funding is not specifically from our budget, it's from a separate.
Correct, that's the redevelopment TIF. He just noted that it's he wants to make sure people have their eyes on it, and it's a focus of his, yeah. But no funding in the Temple City budget for that.
You didn't put the stormwater in there.
I'll have a conversation with Jared.
Thank you. DPW accomplishments for this year. We completed the last year's community crossing resurfacing project, and we are currently doing the 2023 project. If you have driven through Franklin, you will see work happening there. Richard, 49, so that's been ongoing. Will be done before Thanksgiving. We should be. I should say will be. Should be. And we are next year we're going to apply for the next year's community crossing for $1 million match. We've been getting that for the last several years. So we also the design for the 75th and Oakland roundabout is currently ongoing. It's supposed to be bid late 2024 or by spring of 2025. That's the latest we can bid. So it'll be a 2025 construction.
Is the funding for that coming from this budget, or?
If you recall, last year we got an MPO grant through the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They are funding 80% of that, and we are doing 20% of the match. So that's what is funding that. This year we have already got a consensus from McCourtsville and Indianapolis to do some financial cost sharing for the 86 and Carroll roundabout. Because we get a lot of complaints about that intersection that people not, so it's an unsafe intersection if you drive through it. So working with Indianapolis and McCourtsville, they have agreed to pitch in some money. We'll take the lead on it. We are going to apply for, it's a several $1 million, it's close to $6 million project. So we're going to apply for the MPO grant, which is currently out. The applications are due by December 1st. So I'm gathering all the documentation and support letters. So we'll apply for that, and I have pretty good hope that we're going to qualify for one of those grants they have. But usually they announce it first quarter of next year. So a good thing is we got commitments from McCourtsville and Indianapolis, and the grant we are going after is a 90-10, so 90% funded from them and 10% from us. So fingers crossed for us to get that.
And you said the city of Lawrence is able to take the lead on that?
Correct. We are taking the lead. We did all the study on that, so we will be taking the lead on that. Regarding the public works code enforcement, we're continuing to do code inspections. We've been addressing people's complaints like high weed and grass, trash. So we have a contractor helping with us, and we're billing the people back. So we get the calls, we get emails regarding that, and we have the code inspector out there doing it every day. So that is kind of what DPW is doing. We are continuing to look at the permitting system. It's mostly online now. So we kind of addressing some of the glitches. So people are 95% of the time it's been applied through online now. There's some glitches every once in a while that people have to call and come give us a paper copy. But most of the payments are taken through online. Everything is working good so far. We are also in the next year. We are also planning to procure an asset management software to do all the asset management for our roads, signal, sidewalks, all that stuff. It's more like a Google thing that they drive through it and get data and how rated, and then it will all have a job work order module where Jim's department will be able to issue work orders for any complaints we get. So we are looking into that too. We're continuing to do strip patching and crack sealing and all that good stuff every year. And we are also looking out for other grant opportunities for next year. We continuously look for that every year. So that's kind of DPW. And on the stormwater side, the stormwater goals were not in the package, right, Tyler? I think he missed to put that in the package.
No, they're not. You're correct. Street is in there, but.
Yeah, street is there, but I think it was the second page of what I sent to him, and probably he might have.
He's
Okay.
back. Sure.
Oh, I got it. So Tyler, the stormwater is not in this package, right? Yeah, so I'll be quick.
Yeah, go
So we are continuing to follow up on drainage complaints, and we are addressing them through our contractors. We have caught up on 90% of the complaints, which is a good thing. And last year, early this year, we received $600,000 Okra grant for the Brookside Park Drainage Improvement Project. We just bid the project. We have a contractor on board. So that project is going to get started in the next month. It's for the Brookside Park stormwater improvements. 600,000 is coming from the Okra, and we are putting another $600,000 in. Rainbow Lane and Pine Hill Drive drainage project that is currently on construction is finishing up. If you have driven through any of those streets, it's paved. Streets looks good. The ditches look good. There is no more water standing. People are happy. So I think we are doing punch lists on it right now, and it should be all wrapped up next month.
Those projects don't carry into '24.
Nope, they're done. We are closing it out next month. We are continuously working with IDEM for the compliance, all the compliance requirements. And we also started some data collection for GIS data collection for some of the stormwater assets. Our GIS data is there, but it's not accurate because anything that is changed and moved. So we have a GIS equipment that we go out and collect data on an as-needed basis. So that's kind of ongoing process. For 2024, the goal is to finish the Brookside Park project that we got the money for. And we currently have 3 projects that are currently under design. One is Industrial Parkway, one is Oakland Village, and then the third one is the Lawrence Terrace Shadeland Park, which is the west side of 465. These are 3 drainage projects that are currently under design, will be ready for construction next summer. And we just have to identify the funds to do those projects, we've looked at some grant opportunities. These are in areas that wouldn't apply for Okra grant, so we'll have to be creative on how we can find money to do these projects in the next year. And these projects were, other than the Industrial Parkway, the other 2 projects were in the list of that we provided to you when we came to you for the bond. Those 2 projects were already there. Industrial Parkway just sprung out because there were some issues, and it's not a huge project, but it's still a project that needs to be designed and built.
May I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, please.
Thank you. Will you be able to submit that to the council or to the finance committee so that it's inclusive into the packet instead of just letting us know? I would like to see it in a written format, please.
Oh, everything, the goals and accomplishments for stormwater?
Please.
Yeah, we'll add that to the, I don't know. We'll amend this and make it as a separate one for stormwater.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Sri.
Can't remember all the goals.
No, that's a good question. So I guess streets is next. All right.
Streets is next. All right.
All right, you see our accomplishments. I just got a few of them that I'd like to touch on. We replaced a new salt truck, took possession of a new front end loader, which is one we had was messed up. We've been strip patching roads. Sheree and I have been. We got a lot more still yet to do this year. We've swept the city twice this year. Entire city's been swept twice. We've 260 miles worth, and we've got rid of 150 cubic yards of debris, quite a bit. Sidewalks, we replaced about, if you add the 2 numbers, about 1,700 feet. Tree removal coincides with the sidewalk because neighborhoods we target, the trees cause the sidewalks to buckle, so the tree comes out and the sidewalk gets replaced. So that's what's called. You can't put it back that way. Good news is our second salt barn here that you see we put on here it will be finished tomorrow, and it will be loaded with 1,100 more tons of salt. So our barn is full, so we'll probably have 4,000, 5,000 tons of salt for this year. So we shouldn't, knock on wood, run out. We purchased a new brush hog. I'm sure you guys seen it running around town, and we got the boom mower. In our ongoing, for '24, we have our ongoing trucks, because our trucks are like 2005, 6, 7s. They're low miles, but they're wore out. And we're still going to pit the strip patch tree, and I've got a big list for next year. You see the roof on 59th Street, it's so old, it's leaking. Air conditioners are original. I'd like to try to see about getting our shop, because we've outgrown our shop. Need to get some more space there on 59th Street. And our fence at 53rd Street kind of looks like Swiss cheese. We need to get it fixed up, and I'd like to expand it to the city property. Right now, we've got city property that's not in fencing, and there's been some people like to take it upon herself to dump stuff in it, which then we got to clean up. The lightning loader, we're going to try to get one of them. That's what goes around, picks up our trees during storm damage. It's getting wore out. And one thing I forgot to put on here is the fleet management software we're trying to get. So when the council and everybody says, hey, how we looking on vehicle maintenance? What's the years of our oldest vehicle? We'll be able to run a report, because right now what we have, it's just not. It's the original from
Sure.
89, 90, so it's beyond any capability I can do. So that's about all I have there, and I'm sure you see us running around town doing all kinds of stuff.
Does anybody have?
We have been painting neighborhoods. I know we get a lot of complaints about painting curbs and sidewalk, curbs for the fire hydrants. We've been starting that. We've got quite a few neighborhoods done. I think Winding Ridge is done. There's a lot of big ones done.
Complaints that's
They're not paid.
done.
They're not paid.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's.
Gotcha.
So we're finally getting that caught up.
That's under the 2023 accomplishments, painting curbs.
I think it is on here. If it's not, I should have put it on. Yeah, painting streets and sidewalk and crosswalks. Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I think we've been in quite a few. We've got more to go. It's never ending. It's like sidewalk replacement.
We had a kind of a mild winter. Did you save some money on salt usage from
Yes, I did.
23 into 24?
That's why most of my barn is still from last year, which makes it nice. See, with our salt budget, we're always in the rears.
See.
So I got to buy so much for 23. I should have some carryover for 24. That's how I'm going to be able to fill this up.
Gotcha.
And
Oh, I took your questions. Well, for time's sake. And I should have asked this of Cherie, so I apologize, but how's your personnel budget? Do you feel we're competitive as far as wages with other cities and communities?
I probably is.
Okay.
I mean, we only get so much to deal with. So yeah, I mean, that's
Okay.
where do you cut your losses? You know what I mean? But yeah, we're competitive. I got to hire one more person. If anybody knows of a CDL driver, I would. We'll be happy to spread the word. But that's about it.
Did Councilor Russell submit any text you? Okay.
She don't want me either.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Questions from Warren?
And Sri, I meant to ask you the same question. Does anyone, do you feel your wages in your department are competitive?
In the proposal, we are trying to hire somebody to help with the stormwater side of that. There's a lot of complaints coming in and, daily interactions with the people. So with the stormwater department being built up, we are at a point where we need a person to just oversee some of those. So other than that, DPW-wise, we're our staff. We do good. But that's all
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So, I don't know where Tyler went, but who do we have next on a few more departments? Is it Parks and Fire and Police, I think is what we have left?
Police and fire, parks.
We're definitely.
We have about 10 minutes, but I think we can do it.
Let me go here.
We had to start late, so I think we may well run over.
Police is next. Now, we may not finish, so we'll probably have to continue this on to second.
Okay.
Okay.
If we have guests here, of course, we should take the time to get everybody in if they've made a special trip.
Nope, I'm good. I'll be brief so that we can get the fire department in.
Sure.
So some of the police department's accomplishments, we got an Edwards Burns grant awarded to us. We use that for some crowd control type stuff. We got a Department of Homeland Security grant. That was a $150,000 grant that's going to help pay for the Bearcat. Some of the objectives for 2024, we have 5 to 8 officers who are going to retire next year. We're still 6 down, so we're going to have to add a lot of officers. We are currently in our 4th hiring session of the year. Out of the first 3 hiring sessions, we were able to hire 6 officers. So as you can see, we're still low. We are currently in the middle of our 4th process. We have 8 people that have gone into the background phase of the hiring process.
Sir, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick, not everybody may know you. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Chief Travis Klein.
All right, thank you, sir. And within that, there were some historical hiring numbers that aren't there currently. Could you kind of hit on historically, maybe in 2015 or 2010, what you would have saw when you were doing a
When
hiring?
we would do a hiring process, you'd get 150 people, that would show up, and now we're getting, if we're lucky, 20.
Okay.
We get a lot of interest forms, but not a lot of people follow through and come in, so.
So you have to do multiple rounds of hiring to find 1 or 2 officers?
Yeah, that was one of the things that we changed. Instead of doing like one, typically we do one every 2 years because you'd get a big enough list that you can pull people from, where now you can't even make a list. You hire who makes it through the entire process.
Okay, thank you.
I think one of our other things that we're looking to do this year is there's a program, it's called the Safe Cam program. It's where residents can register like their Ring doorbells or cameras on their house, to where if we have a crime and detectives, they'll have to go out and canvass a neighborhood. So now with this Safe Cam, it'll pull it up on a map and show us all the houses that are registered that has a camera. And it even does where the police department can send out an email and say, hey, or a text alert, there was a crime in your area, check your cameras for this, and they can respond and send us the video. It just saves a lot of time, and that's how technology has gone. So I think we need to try to follow the technology. So that's about it. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any, Councilor Whitfield, do you have any questions?
Oh, I was just looking at all the 24 objectives.
It's quite an impressive
It's quite
list.
an
yes.
impressive list. But I also want to make sure that we understand the need of implementing and trying to hire more officers so that you're not in a crisis state with so many retiring in 2024. So I truly appreciate the effort that you guys are putting in, and hopefully looking at other incentive ways to recruit. So thank you for that.
On the other end, the annual Teen Academy, the Citizens Academy, all of those other pieces that you're continuing to work on to.
The Teen Academy will be a first for us, but that's a way to get these kids in the process of, you got to be 21, but get them while they're young. And
the last thing is that mental health awareness piece is very important. So I applaud you guys for stepping up on that too.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what we could do, oh, here comes the chief. All right.
How you doing?
Good evening, Chief Patalis.
I'll try to make this brief, and then if you have any questions. A couple things on the list there. We've been trying to do things as we go along and try not to make the list, and tried to list some of the major stuff. One of the things we've been heavily involved with is that there were some union-sponsored classes that we went to as far as carcinogens with the stations. So we retroed all the stations with venting to outside air where the gear hangs. Every station has a gear washer in it. And we can't force guys to wash their gear, but we try to make it convenient as possible. Like when they're coming back from a run, they can fill air bottles, wash their gear all, at the same time. So having that stuff on hand it makes it a little bit easier. But venting was a big issue because there was no outside air getting and venting that gear out. The new station was built with even a decon room, and when people go in there, you didn't finish this room. There's no carpet. It's just very bland, and it's for a reason. So we don't want anything to hold on to those toxins. So there's showers in there. There's stools in there, but it's a cement floor. It's just, it would drain. So we've tried to make sure this is going to be the model for the future stations coming up, that we have an actual decon room. So they're not only their exterior gear, the fire gear, but the clothes they wear underneath can be left in a room, and that they don't infect the rest of the living quarters of the fire station.
Chief, before you move on, may I ask a quick question? Do you mind if I ask a question?
No, please go ahead.
You said you can't make them wash their equipment.
I'm sorry?
In regards to washing their equipment, can you repeat the statement, what you said about washing their equipment?
There's gear washers.
Gear washers,
There used to be just one gear washer for the whole city. Now each station has one.
okay?
So, and it's really hard when they're coming back from a run. Each firefighter has a backup set of gear. That gear, the shelf life on that gear is 5 years. So we don't replace everybody's at once. There's a schedule, and their gear is replaced. So they have a primary and a secondary. So they come back from a run, they can start washing their primary gear and go into a backup set of gear. It's just it's a convenient thing. And same way with the fill stations for the air that they wear on their backs. They're SCBA fill stations. The city only used to have one. Now all the stations are outfitted with them. So it just makes it so they can better prepare them, get them in service quicker to take another run. Because when you have to go to another station, it's just like everybody's trying to get their stuff done at one time. It doesn't work out. And it's just it's a safety issue as well as a convenience. But safety is the first concern that we have with that.
Thank you.
And so we started this with the former controller, Jason, and continue with Tyler about the replacement vehicles. So we had a large debt service because everything needed to be replaced at once when we first came in. Now that's starting to level out. Starting towards the end of this year, going next year, a lot of that debt service will start falling off, and it's going to just make those replacements. So if the new administration comes in here and they follow those guidelines as far as the replacement policy, the city should never be on any department, not just the fire department, but any departments, they go along with that replacement policy. We shouldn't be replacing everything all at once because it's very expensive and stuff gets out of date, and it sometimes it's unsafe to operate that way. We had to obtain our own DEA license. We couldn't work underneath our medical director's license, so with getting our own DEA license for our narcotics, there's lock boxes on all the vehicles. They're very secure. We have them at our headquarters. So that was a big deal, but it also shifts a lot of responsibility to the department.
Right.
And we had to take all those precautions because if drugs comes up missing, it's horrendous with trying to satisfy everybody when the DA gets involved or the other agencies. You just want to make sure that stuff's secure. And there's a very good logging system for that. We also, in the effort trying to retain our paramedics, that we've purchased a paramedic refresher course that pretty much they don't have to go outside to the department to obtain all their hours. And a medic has to go through quite a bit of recertification hours, so we've made it a lot easier for them to obtain that inside the department versus going outside. Doesn't mean they can't go outside to get that, but it's also offered inside. We had a very successful lateral process. We had 8 laterals altogether. We lost 1. Well, we have 7 really solid. It's the first time we've ever done that. Went to our merit commission, got that approval, and those guys are all doing really well on those laterals. So now our medic count's up to where it should be. And we just finished up our hiring process, and we've got a list of 50 applicants that are on that list. So one other thing that's going in this new station is a baby box. We applied for the grant. There's none in the city of Lawrence right now. The closest one we have is in Carmel. That station's had 4 babies in the last year dropped off. So the box are $11,500. We got a grant for $10,000 from the state due to a couple donations from private citizens. They have paid for that balance. We had a company come in, they're paying for the $4,000 installation fee for that. So it's cost the city $0 to have this baby box in that station. So, and there's a lot of credit. Our whole department has to be trained on it. There's some really strong legalities that are involved with this box. So I know there's a lot of debate. There was a lot of debate over that, but I'd much rather have a baby in that box than have it found in a dumpster somewhere else. So,
Do you have a projected date when that'll be available?
excuse me, ma'am.
Will you have a projected date when that will be available?
it's due for delivery at the end of October, and we are planning on getting that installed right away. I'm hoping by mid-November it'd be operational, but by then we have to have, and there's going to be a separate ceremony for that. Safe Haven Baby Box, and they're really particular because the state statutes about training everybody in the alerting, and because sometimes those babies are put in there, and sometimes the mother changed their mind or the father, whatever.
Yes.
And so they just don't get the baby back. There's a process they have to go. The new heart monitors, these are set up for 10 years. So 5 years from now, there's a new technology or new heart monitors will be provided that's on our apparatus that enables to help our mechs be more proficient, more up-to-date data for the mechs to use these monitors. Our air packs are good for another 10 years. And we have an engine that, because of COVID, it's been delayed about almost 2 years. So that engine we ordered 2 years ago is due to come in here in sometime in October. And what we've done, because the time lapse, and we've covered this during the town hall meetings, we've made orders. So we've got equipment coming in all the way past 2025. That's how long the wait is. In order to keep with this replacement policy, we had to look ahead, not only the cost, but the time waiting on these vehicles. So I think there's a really good plan put in place, and as long as that's followed, I think we should be able to keep up with stuff. But COVID really set us back with beyond our control with trying to get materials and stuff, and the cost. I covered all the.
We'll probably have a follow-on meeting, Chief Vitalis, so if there was anything missed,
Okay.
we can swing back to that.
If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them or whatever. But I think you'll find that the new station that's going to have
Yeah.
everything that's safety-wise, and there's been a lot of hard work put in by a lot of our members, and worked well to try to get this to be safe and be able to respond. And so we should be in the house and operational the next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Congratulations on the baby box, though. That's
Yeah,
That's
it
very
was supposed to go in the old station, and we looked at the location, and because it's near the interstate and it's only one on this side, I think it's going to be rather busy. The other thing Tyler touched on, I want to touch just real quick about the EMS fund. Medicare made some changes where some of the runs are like in excess of $500 more per run, and that's going to really help out with our revenue. So we won't really be able to gauge anything until probably close to the end of September because of the billing cycle with Medicare. But we talked to our billing company, and they've already realized it's going to help our EMS fund quite a bit. And to think we're going to operate in the black on that EMS fund, we're not. I think you have to look at the EMS service that we provide. It's kind of like you do the fire service. It's something we need to provide the citizens, but because of the cost and the reimbursement, it's never going to operate in a plus. It's not going to be a moneymaker for the city. I don't think it ever will be.
And you're more of a regional response. Anyway, we don't just serve the city of Lawrence. You do leave the borders. Yeah.
There's mutual aid agreement signed on the fire side. The EMS side is just kind of an unwritten thing. So we get ambulances in here from other areas. We go outside. I mean, we've been as far as Beech Grove, and we go the other side of Washington. Yeah, those trucks run a lot. But if we expect to get help from somebody else in, then we need to provide that service out. But we are really, we look forward and working hard to try to get our third ambulance back operating the city, because right now we have two that operate, and then we have one that's on a non-contractual basis with a third party, a private ambulance service. So, but when you use that, we lose the revenue on that. So I think it's important in the near future that we get a third ambulance back in the city that we operate.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Vitalis. Appreciate it. Do we have time to hear Parks?
I think that's a question for Tyrell.
we just,
Do we have time to hear Parks, or would you prefer, do we have one more department left? Would you prefer
So, because I think our general meeting will be fairly quick, so I want to make sure that you guys have everything you.
Okay, thank you.
HR, or it's more than one.
Is there more than one? How many?
Did you want to?
Parks and HR. Okay, I didn't mean to leave out HR. And I think considering we have to have a public hearing later on, so we'll come back to all this. But yeah,
You want to?
yeah, let's go ahead. We have
We
time.
talked about on the second would need to be the public hearing.
Yeah.
You have to do the public hearing notice 10 days in advance. So I've submitted that, so you can do the hearing on the second. You cannot act on the budget until 10 days after the hearing. So the earliest you could act on the budget is mid-month October. So just a timeline there.
Okay.
Thank you. Real quickly, I'll go over some remaining goals that we're hoping to meet yet this year. The installation of a new playground at Community Park. It's a 2 to 5 year old piece.
Oh, nice.
I mentioned this in our town hall meeting, but we hope to get that in before the end of the year. Our fitness trail, we just met on that today. That's going in at Lee Road Park. Continual build out of cultural campus. We did some electrical repairs just there today to make it presentable for this weekend's event, the Loggers of Lawrence. We're still working on the trail along Lee Road. We're hoping to finish the acquisition of the easements and the bidding of that project yet this year, so we can hopefully start in January of 2024. Fencing in Oak Landing Park, that was a budgeted item for this year. I did have to add some additional funds to it, but we're having new wrought iron, it's aluminum, but looks like wrought iron at Play Park put in to replace the nearly 30-year-old fence that's there now. So that hopefully is done before the end of the year. And then through a donation from some local citizens, we're putting in some more pollinator gardens at Lee Road and Gin Park yet this year. We're doing that in-house with our own staff. So for 2024, we hope to start the Lee Road Trail. We're hoping that we get a positive result from our for the Fall Creek Trail with City of Indianapolis. So we bid on that, or we applied for funds for that for $5 million, and we hope to have that information by the end of December. So hopefully we're working on that in 2024. Expand league offerings with CCA and YMCA to help both increase our non-reverting fund. CCA is an adult athletic program, so we're playing pickleball and softball and kickball and other things at Lee Road and Community Park. We've got purchase of our maintenance equipment. I know that Chief Battales just spoke of this. We too are continuing to update our road fleets and our mowers, and so that's on schedule to continue that. We have redoing of the play park bathrooms. Received a lot of vandalism this year, and we're putting in new doors and new petitions and doing a repaint, and then we're going to put electric locks on it to lock and unlock it in a timely manner.
When you say play park, is that community?
It's the Oak Landing Play Park.
Oh, Oak Landing, okay.
Gin Park, we hope to do some exterior and interior beautification there this year, along with the Community Activity Center at Community Park. We're just receiving more use for those facilities, rentals, and so we're trying to do everything to upgrade those, to keep those buildings presentable to the community. And then lastly, we're programming the April 8th total eclipse. That's schools are out that day. That's a Monday, and we hope to have a great program. So we've already started the scheduling of that. So we've got several things listed for next year, and we hope to have a good, successful year. Is there any questions you might have?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Eric, appreciate it. And then we have HR, sorry. You wouldn't be wearing your sorority colors today, would you?
Yes.
That was not necessary.
Oh, I recognize them.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief due to time and want to be respectful of time. So just a quick overview of our 2023 accomplishments. Of course, we hosted a community resource and employment fair that we always continue to partner with CAFE. And we also hosted our Lawrence Advisory Council on Disability. This is one of our great initiatives where we received a grant for employment empowerment. This allows an initiative to create new and inclusive approaches for employment for those with disabilities. And we just want to make sure that they are included in all things that we do throughout the city. Some of our goals that we've also completed since 6:30 and above. We've had our employee luncheon fund, which was hosted at AJ's. The city employees seemed to like that location and had a great time there. We want to create awareness and donations for our LACD. We want to provide more understanding about sensory areas and accessibility. We partnered with the Fort Bend Library, which they host sensory events every Thursday. We were just there for a grand opening for the sensory event the following weekend, and we had a decent turnout, but they are embracing the sensory side and making sure everyone is feeling inclusive and included. We did host an employment fair, a community resource fair with our LACD. We are looking to possibly host another one. We are in the process of negotiating our upcoming benefits. We do have a strategic meeting on this upcoming Friday, which we will go over what our renewals will be, as well as what ways that we can help keep our costs low for our employees, as well as some other wellness incentives due to some of the numbers that we've seen in regards to the reports on the health benefits side. For 2024, we will continue to try to increase employee engagement. That is important for us to help with retention. As we know that the market is very competitive right now, so we have to be innovative of how we are going to create employee engagement and awareness and opportunities for them, and that's going to be some different ways of how we can do that in 2024. We'll have additional of how we can get funding for more of our employee engagement, as well as having other events outside of just that once a year for our employee appreciation, as well as building other partnerships. Our biggest thing for me is creating an HRIS system for the technology. The system that we currently use right now, it is not the most efficient for HR needs, especially when we are trying to have systems read other programs and other technology systems. Our system is not usually compatible with those, so we have to do everything manually, and as you know, that can be very time-consuming based on the number of employees that we have. So thankfully, hopefully if the budget is approved, we will have the funds to be able to do that for a learning management system and for our HRIS system. There are some things that need to be updated within the ordinance as well as our city handbook. As you know, that's an ongoing process, so we just want to make sure that that information is up to date and correct.
Great. Any questions?
I do have one quick question. When you talk about increased employee engagement opportunities, have we done a climate survey or?
So if
employee-
we're going to do a survey, it's important that we're able to follow through and make sure that we understand what it looks like. I'm not a believer in doing a survey and not actually putting in the work of what we want to do. So it's just making sure we have funds. And being available to some of the things that I've heard we can do, but there's one time a year, everything does cost money. So just to make sure that the cost is there, as well as are we able to do it? The biggest thing is pay.
Okay.
So we are just making sure that we are going to see how we are compared to other organizations as well as cities and how we can compete. That's pretty the norm in most industries right now. We are all competing for our people to come and work for us. So what sets you apart from all the other organizations? So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Question? Any questions from Council Russell?
No.
No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's everybody then. So I want to thank all of our department heads for coming in, our controller and the administrative folks from our city, providing this information. This is great information for us. Tyler, do you mind going, you mentioned real quick that schedule in passing. Could you just restate it again? So we kind of had it clear. Because I think we'll come back to some of this information after that public hearing.
Yeah, so there's a 10-day period you have to keep in mind for a couple different things. So you have to do a public notice for the public hearing 10 days advance of the hearing. So that's been scheduled so you can do the public hearing on the 2nd, October 2nd. So for anybody listening, anybody here, you can come, be heard as a citizen at the public hearing on October 2nd. Then you have to wait 10 days to act on the budget. So you can now act on the budget mid-month October meeting. So that's the timeline. And the deadline is November 1st
Right.
for adoption.
And Mr. Chair, just for clarity, that public hearing is at the council's regular council meeting on Monday, October 2nd at 6:30.
Yes, yep.
Thanks.
And so I think if there's not any objections, what I'll report back to the full council is that we heard and from the departments, and that we're ready to go ahead with the public hearing, and we'll review the budget again mid-October. Okay. All right, thank you again for all this great information from our department heads. The Finance Committee meeting is adjourned.